I've had some people private message me, and I've had some direct messages on or comments on the videos about what blades I'm running. And as you can see, I've got a tremendous variety here. Some of them are just what I would consider sacrificial blades. You know, I'm from that intermediate generation. For my father, a carbide blade was something special. It was something to be protected and resharpened. For my grandfather, a carbide blade would be, it would be something that you would only see in professional shops. It had very specific jobs.
This one, Daddy. I want this one.
You can't have any of these anymore, however.
This one.
Carbide blades really aren't worth the price to sharpen them. Now, some of these have seen some hard life. I didn't actually do that to this. I have run it on my saw when I was ripping some oak dunnage, because God only knows what's in it. And that's kind of the purpose of this set of blades here, is they're God only knows what's in that wood kind of blades. And this one's missing some teeth, whatnot. I don't have them sharpened anymore. I used to.
Thank you, Daddy.
Today, however, you're looking at more than $1 a tooth. So it's easier just to buy a new blade. Carbide blades have simply become disposable.
Keep it in there.
For my chop saw,
Keep it. Keep it, Daddy.
I really like the DeWalts. It is a DeWalt saw. This one was destroyed cutting cement board. That's really hard on blades. And I knew I was going to wreck it when I did it. So this was that blade. After cutting concrete board, I put on the brand new Irwin. I really like this one. I'm not endorsing any company you hear or see here today. I just understand that. I'm just telling you my own personal experiences. I really like this one. It cut straight, it cut nice. It's actually sharper than it looks still. The black on there is from cutting bias ply tires to make children's swings. So we cut the bead out where the steel wire was, and then hog through the middle of the tire, and that it generated some heat. This one is now the blade that waits for cutting concrete board, and I was disappointed to lose it. This one is trash. I don't know why I still have it on my wall. The one I have on my 12-inch chop saw right now is the 12-inch version of this Freud Diablo. It's a fine blade. It's really sharp. I'll give it that. You know when you plunge through the cut and then you're coming back up?
Daddy.
For whatever reason,
Daddy.
the 12-inch version of this seems to grab as you come back up. It's like the kerf of the blade, that is the thickness of the blade, somehow gets wider as the saw slows down. So either you have to keep your hand on the trigger, holding it, powering it all the way back up, or you have to wait for it to stop at the bottom, or you have to slide your wood back. But there is no just down, cut, up, pull back, because it'll grab that piece of wood. It isn't like it's going to rip it out of your hand or anything. It just, I don't know. It's like a table saw fence that isn't quite aligned. I don't know if it's a problem. Okay. It's a problem with the blade. I know it's a problem with the blade because I put the Irwin back on and it stopped doing it. I don't know why it's doing it. Here's an interesting saw blade. Top on my list of things I would never want to do to my table saw. This is a Rockwell abrasive disc. Gosh, this thing probably dates from the 60s. Green label. It's never been on a saw, that I can tell you. Cooling fins. Yeah, 9-inch for stone and plastic. Ceramic, clay, and stone products such as other dense aggregates such as concrete, cinder block, building brick, tile, fire brick, marble, slate, granite, terracotta, synthetic stone, terrazzo, limestone, porcelain, concrete, and mortar. Also excellent for compressed materials such as lucite, bakelite, and other plastics. I could not imagine the smoky, nasty mess cutting plastic with this wheel. And you won't either, because there's no way I'm putting that on my saw. I'm not throwing it away. It's going back in my rack. But there is no way I'm doing that to my table saw. Table saw blades. You know, I mean, this was a pride and joy when I inherited this one. Craftsman chroma edge, hollow ground blade. This can only cut that depth right there. It's basically no set to the teeth of any kind. And it would be, you know, cutting a fine veneer plywood. I've used it for that myself, actually. Though the last time it was seriously used was probably on one of my grandfather's saws. I really like this blade. It's a shovel tooth, meaning the carbide, instead of going up, is laying flat. But she popped a tooth right here. And when I sent it in to be sharpened, I believe this is the last blade I had sharpened, they told me they didn't advise replacing the teeth. I always felt it's probably because they couldn't get the teeth or didn't have the teeth or whatnot. Unfortunately, a lot like a metal bandsaw, once you lose a tooth here, now this tooth takes more and more of the load. And so I put her back into service with one missing tooth. Very shortly that one popped off. This one is cracked. So it'll eventually just go right on down the line. So I retired it. But it was a favorite of mine. Yeah, there's the note from the saw sharpener. Because of tooth design and softening of plate, tooth replacement not advisable. Brand new steel blade. I think it's only been on a chop saw. I have no idea why it's in my rack. I do know that after this video, it will not be returning to the rack. It'll go to the scrap steel barrel. I can't see a single reason to hang on to this, even for cutting ugly stuff. I have carbide blades for cutting ugly stuff, so there's no need for me to save this. Here's an oldie. An 8-tooth. It's a safe saw carbide. This would have been an old one. Now, unfortunately, it's alright, buddy. I dropped the saw blade on the ground. This one also will not be returning to the rack. I don't actually have the knockout plug. This fit one of my grandfather's saws with the 1-inch Arbour on it. Even if I had a 1-inch Arbour, I'd never trust it to run true. Now instead of one mating surface, you've got 2 mating surfaces. Anyways, I don't even know if you can find 8-tooth blades anymore. I have another one that actually has my Arbour in it. And what they do is they plow through material, thick material, quickly. They hog cuts. This one's designed with an anti-kickback, one of the beginnings, with these huge shoulders on it. But yeah, there's an oldie. That's probably older than 50% of the people who watch this video. Certainly older than I am. If you watched my video on the Poco wine room tables, this is one of the blades that cut 2 inches of glass, which is an interesting thing, because basically, you know, there was nobody I could ask, hey, will a carbide saw blade hog its way through 2 inches of glass and epoxy? Nobody had ever done it before that I could see, but she did it. These, I bought a 3-pack from Arbour Freight, about as disposable as you can get. You know, the thing is, they were sharp almost as anything else. I don't think the carbide was of the quite a high quality. But I mean, here she is. She plowed through, serious, 2 full inches of glass, making cuts as long as 4 inches long, and you could tell. You know, the table was maple, and after one of the blades had passed through the glass, it really started to burn in the maple. You could tell the glass wiped out the sharpness, but that's fine. I purchased 3 blades for $12. This is the only one that survives. So be it. It was almost a write-off cost, but it's still sharp, and if I ever did that, had to do that again, and I think I'm considering it, I've got somebody who wants a table. She'll go back on the saw, she'll power through, and I'll throw the dang thing away. As far as blades that I use regularly, with the exception of these. Those are the ones right there that I use somewhat regularly. This is a Ryobi 5/8 Arbour 10-inch saw blade. It's never been on my saw, ever. This one was given to me. I think it probably came on somebody's small chop saw. Not that that matters all that much. It doesn't feel quality. Does that make sense? It doesn't. I've never run it. In fact, if I was to plow through glass, as far as I'm concerned, this is as disposable as the rest of them. I'm not dissing the Ryobi people, and I can't actually say one way or the other how she cuts, because I've never cut with it, but it's not the one I would reach for. I've recently spent quite a bit of time with this one here on the saw, and it's got a nice thick plate, the supporter cable razor, and it's a combination blade. It's pretty common for what you would see today. I think most of the tooth design stuff is really to attract people. People love bigger teeth and more teeth and stuff like that. It was pretty darn average. Not knocking it, but for what I was doing, yeah, it's pretty average. Yeah, I give it a 6. If it was sitting next to one of the Frood blades or the CMT over there and they were all the same price, I would not jump for this one. This Diablo, it spent a lot of time on my saw, and for the longest time I considered this one of my best blades. I really did. It's pretty quiet. It's got these nice expansion slots. Even though it's a thinner plate than the razor over there, it still felt good. Felt stiff and solid. It didn't seem to cup or warp when it was powering through heavy duty stuff. It's the companion pack to this one. I very rarely run this one. In fact, she's still sharp enough to cut your hands. I don't know who they're kidding when they say thin kerf. This is not a thin kerf blade. In fact, it's quite a bit thicker kerf than that one over there. But for a good stable cut, boy, sometimes you just need a big spinning hunk of metal, and this fits the bill. It does a very smooth cut in things like oak, hardwoods, which is all I've basically used this for. And it's probably been a couple of years since I've thrown it on the saw, because the combination blades have gotten so good I don't think about it quite so much. This one, the CMT here, I loved this blade. It's cut enough now that it's a little dull, though it's still fine. I'd still put it back on the saw, but I really, in fact, I had to take it off the saw to make this video. I've been really I would buy this one again in a heartbeat. I really like the way this thing cut. It's not as thick as the 80 tooth Frood, and it's a little thicker than the Diablo one. It's certainly thicker than the razor there. Like I said, I don't want to recommend anything or condemn anything. I'm simply talking about my experiences. My experiences with this blade have been very positive. I'm gonna buy more, and it goes back on the saw when this video is done. Hands down, this is the most expensive saw blade I own. This is so expensive, I bought it used. Of course, I bought it at the end of that period. Hey! Stop! Thank you. I bought it at the end of that period where a carbide blade was something special. And I admit I was seduced a little by the multi-teeth. And it was a plastic blade, and I think that's really all I've used it to do since, is I occasionally will take it down and cut plastic. The plate on this thing is a monster. An absolute monster. And it has none of the slit coatings. That is something I will tell positive about the fruit blades there. Well, I don't know what they coat them with, but if you could get it on the bottom of a pair of skis or a sled, that would go well. And the CMT, it's not quite as good, but it's still pretty good. This simply relies on the polish and the fact that it's a little hollow ground. And that's one of the things about this blade. You can see where I've run it too high. This blade is really only designed to cut in this area. Very, very narrow. It's a specific sort of blade. When I bought it, I really didn't understand that. So, that's my bad. But I would never spend this kind of money. Now on the saw, this thing is absolutely quiet. It doesn't have any run out, which is side to side. The plate is perfectly true. She'll power through almost anything. I'd never ever buy it again. $70 on it, $60 on it. That was 15 years ago. It's one of the very first. I thought it was hot stuff when I purchased it. So, yeah. So those are my blades. I hope I answered the gentleman's question. I guess what I would tell you is that no, you do not need an $80 10-inch saw blade. I'm sorry, you just don't. If your saw isn't cutting right, adjust your saw. The days of blades with run out, the days of badly set teeth, they're over. Even cheap blades are of a quality that far exceeds what you could purchase 20 years ago. So no, you don't need that $80 blade. If I was reaching for something and it was important and I had to do it and it had to be perfect, I'd put that blade on right there, used and everything. This is what I would put on. Don't be seduced by the 80 teeth. You don't need to be dragging that many teeth through your cuts. They used to use that many teeth because the teeth didn't cut as well. Today, from my experience, is the blades have really cut very well. So you don't need a blade like this anymore. This is a fine blade. I wish I had my money back all those years ago, but it's a fine blade. Walk into Lowe's, buy that one. It's like 35 bucks. You can't go wrong. When it's dull, throw it away. It's just not worth having them sharpened anymore. On that table right there, I'd buy that one again. What are you doing?
I'm hammering this side, Daddy.
You're hammering that side.
Wait, Daddy. She missed, Daddy.
Did you pay any attention to the saw blades?
I'm waiting, Daddy.
Thanks for watching.